Yeah, is it factorable? That's obviously the easiest way. Okay, if it's factorable, factor it. What if it's not factorable? If a quadratic's not factorable, then you use what formula? Quadratic formula, right? That's the cool thing with the quadratic formula. Even if it is factorable, and you don't recognize that and you don't factor it, and you plug it in the quadratic formula always works. That's a great thing about the quadratic formula. Okay, it always works. Okay. But yeah, on part A, we definitely just factor that, right? Into x minus 7, whoa, that's bad 7, and x plus 1 equals 0, so x equals 7, and x equals negative 1. We like factorable ones. Okay, part B. What do we do? Okay, we got to get 3 over, right? So we subtract 3 from both sides. So we get 2x squared. Okay, that really is a square, believe it or not. This is not the most highly sensitive stylus here. 2x squared minus 5x minus 3 equals 0. And is that factorable? I believe it is. 2x and x. We got 3 and 1, so it's got to be 3 here and a 1 here. Yep, plus 1 minus 3. There we go. So x is negative 1/2 and x is 3. Okay. Part C. Now with a root in it, what do we got to do? Remember? Okay, we got to isolate the root first of all. So we got to add 3 to both sides. Okay, so I'm just going to scribble that out and put a 3 over here. There we go. I've now added 3. And now I heard somebody say it, square both sides. So the root and the square cancel out, so we get 2x minus 1 equals 3 squared, which is 9. And then we add 1 divided by 2. Right? I'll let you guys do that. Now the one thing with square root problems though, once you get your answer, check it. Make sure that it's not an extraneous solution. Which means yeah, that an extraneous solution is one that works algebraically but doesn't work in the actual problem because it'll give me a negative square root or something like that. It'll give me something goofy. Okay. And with this one we're okay because we're going to get x is 5 there, so that's good. Okay. All right. So part D, the square root of x squared is x. And part E, x to the 1/3 squared is x to the, right, yeah, whenever you raise a power to a power, you multiply them together. Okay. All right, easy enough. Okay, so there's our starter. Now today, in this section, we're going to talk about what's called the substitution technique. Okay, so there are a lot of times in math when we get problems that look difficult, okay, and they probably are difficult, but we can simplify them if we have a few tools, okay? So we're going to be building a toolbox in this class, all right? And we've got our toolboxes, but they're empty right now. And we're going to be putting different tools in to help us out, okay? Or different arrows in our quiver, as you will, okay? All right, so the one that we talk about, that we're going to talk about today is what we call, again, the substitution technique, or what we'll call U substitution, okay? And the reason we use this to make difficult problems look easy. Okay. So you're probably pretty good at solving quadratics, and you just showed that in our starters, okay, so you get the quadratic thing. Okay, but what if a problem, so problems in this section are going to kind of look like quadratics, but they're not maybe quite in quadratic form, but we're going to do a method called U substitution. We're going to put them in quadratic form. Okay, so remember, standard form for a quadratic, right, is just simply this. It's ax squared plus bx plus c, right, equals 0. Or a, b, and c are just numbers, okay? That's the standard form for a quadratic. Now, let's look at example A here, or 1a. So we have x squared, x plus 2 squared, minus 7 times x plus 2 plus 12. Okay, so how do you want to solve this? Or what do you think would be a way to solve this? Stock, give me one.
Did you say use substitution?
Okay, yeah, we can substitute that. That's one way. What's another way? What could I do with that x plus 2 squared? just FOIL it out, right? Multiply it out, and then I could distribute that minus 7, combine my like terms, I'm going to get the right answer, right? So let's do that real quick. And I'm going to do this fast so we don't take a lot of time. So x plus 2 quantity squared is x squared plus 4x plus 4. Don't forget that middle term, right? Your outers plus your inners. Distribute our 7, so we get minus 7x minus 14 plus 12 equals 0. Okay? Now, combine your like terms. So we've got x squared here. Then 4x minus 7x is minus 3x. And then 4 plus 12 is 16. 16 minus 14 is 2. Okay, now, can we factor that? Yep. X and x. If this is positive, that means my signs are the same, and they're both negative. And I got 2 and 1. And that actually works. So we get x is 2 and x is 1. Now, that way was pretty simple, especially if you're good at foiling, okay? I happen to be okay at it. After 24 years, I've kind of figured it out a little bit, okay? So it's not too bad. But now I'm going to show you another method that we call, again, the U substitution, okay? So over here, we're gonna sneeze first of all. Maybe. Not coming. Hate that. Okay. Okay. So now here we're gonna let and you can choose any variable. I just choose the variable u. I'm gonna let u equal x plus 2, and I'm gonna substitute it in. Okay. So instead of x plus 2 squared, I now have u squared. Instead of minus 7 times x plus 2, it's minus 7u plus 12 equals 0. Now we're ready to factor. Okay. So what does this factor into? U and U, signs are the same, they're both minus, and 12 breaks down into 4 and 3, which gives me 7. Okay, so I get U equals 4, and U equals 7. No, I'm sorry, U equals 3. But I don't want U, what do I want? I want X, so now I'm going to plug that back in. So instead of U equals 4, I get X plus 2 equals 4. And I get X plus 2 equals 3. 2 equals 3. And then we solve those and we get the exact same answers that we got over there. Okay. Okay. All right, so the problems above are said to be in quadratic form. What's called quadratic form because they have the same basic form as a quadratic. Namely, number 1, they have 3 terms. Number 2, we've written them in descending order. And 3, the variable part of the second term can be squared to make the variable part of the first term. So you can see, so if I take x plus 2 right here and I square it, I get x plus 2 squared. Okay, that's what we mean by that part. Okay. Now part 3 is most difficult for people to see sometimes. All right, so let's look at our next example. Okay, so, all right, so we have, so part A here, we have 2x minus 5 root x equals 3. Okay, so the first thing I need to do is put this in quadratic form, put it in standard form. Okay, so we're going to subtract 3 from both sides. So we get 2x minus 5 root x minus 3 equals 0. Okay, now, so what am I going to let u equal here? And I'm going to tell you, you always let u equal the variable of the middle term. So what's the variable in my middle term? Square root of x. So I'm going to let u equals the square root of x. Okay, so now I get 2u squared, right? Because x is the square root of x squared. We did that in our little starter. Minus 5u minus 3 equals 0. Now that goofy problem with the square root in it and all that stuff becomes really simple. Okay, and we've already factored this one before. We did that in our starters. It's weird how those starters relate to these directly, right? So we get 2u, what was it, plus 1, and u minus 3. that right? Minus 6 plus 1, yeah. Okay, so we get u is negative 1/2, subtracting 1, dividing by 2, and we get u is 3. But again, we don't want u, we want x. Okay, so plug x back in now. So now we get the square root of x equals negative 1/2. Oh my gosh, that's just bad. Still looking for a better program that writes this better. So the square root of x is negative 1/2, and the square root of x is 3. Okay, so over here with root x is 3, so how do we solve that? We square both sides, so we get x is 9. Okay, over here. Now the other half, square root of x is negative 1/2. So what would I get? X is 1/4. Okay, problem. What's my problem here? Can the square root of a number ever be negative? It can't, can it? So that's bad, right? So x really doesn't equal 1/4. In fact, if you plug 1/4 back in, you won't get the right answer. Okay, and that's why I tell you with square root problems, always check your answers. Okay, this is what's called an extraneous solution because the square root of a number can't be negative. That's gone. That's not our only answer is x equals 9. Okay. Please, please, please check those. Check them. Okay. All right. So part B. What's u going to be here? X to the 1/4. Good. Okay, so again we get u squared minus 5u plus 4 equals 0. Signs are the same, both minus, so we get u minus 4 and u minus 1, because minus 4 minus 1 is minus 5. Okay, so u is 4, u is 1. But again, we don't want u, we want x, so we plug x back in. So we get, let's see, well, what was u? X to the 1/4? Okay, so what do I do to get rid of my 1/4 there? Raise it to the 4th power. Good. So that goes away. And I get x equals 4 to the 4th, which is 256. Yep. And then over here, 1 to the 1/4 is just simply 1. Okay. All right, we starting to get these now a little bit?
Wait a minute, but
Yes.
I don't really get how you, because 1/4 squared is 1/16, right?
Correct.
So wouldn't you have to like
But-
switch the two terms around?
No, so what I'm doing is, but I'm raising it to that power. So 1/4 raised to the 4th power. Whenever you raise a power to a power, you just times the powers together. Is this answering your question? So 1/4 times 4 is 1. And so I raise each side to the 4th power, then that'll give me what I need.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Good question. Thank you for that. Okay, any other questions before we move on? You okay? All right, part C. So what's u going to be here? X to the 1/3. So we get 3u, not 2. Oh my gosh. Squared plus 5u minus 2 is 0. Yeah, that's factorable. Okay, so we got 3u and u. Okay, if signs are opposite, got to break 2 down and get 5 out of the deal. So it's got to be a 2 here and a 1 here, and that's plus and that's minus. Right? Plus 6u minus 1u. And I'm doing the outers. Remember, your outers plus your inners have to be that term right there. So that's what I'm doing here, okay? So 3u times 2 is 6u, and then minus 1 times u is minus u. 6u minus u is plus 5u. That's where we're getting that from. Okay, so what is u now? U is 1/3, and u is negative 2. Sounds like I'm bad English. U is negative 2. Okay, so u is x to the 1/3, right? So plug it in. And x to the 1/3 equals negative 2. Okay, so how do I get rid of that 1/3? I cube both sides. Good. So what is 1/3 cubed? 1/3, 9/27. And negative 2 cubed is negative 8. It's not that. It works. They both work. Ugly, but they work. Okay, 72. That is all sorts of ugly. Okay, this is why we like u substitution. So what's u going to be here? Y over y minus 1, yeah. Okay, so now we get u squared equals 6u plus 7. Okay, next. Good, move everything over. Nicely done. So now we get u squared minus 6u minus 7 equals 0. Factor it. U minus 7, u plus 1. So we get u equals 7 and u equals 1. Okay, plug it back in. So now we have y over y minus 1 equals 7. Oh, yes, thank you. Yes, yes, yes. That would have been bad. Okay, so let's solve this first one. This solves 7, and then we'll do negative 1. So now how do I take care of that? How do I take care of y over y minus 1 equals 7? Multiply by y minus 1. Good. So we get y equals, and I'm going to distribute my 7, so I get 7y minus 7. And now we subtract 7y. Now it's easy, right? So we get negative 6y is negative 7. Divide by negative 6, and y is 7 over 6. So even ugly answers we can actually get fairly simply. Okay, and then just do the same process with this one here. So we get y over y minus 1 equals negative 1, and then go from there. Okay, with the same process. All right, try number 41 on your own. Okay, so we got u is x squared, right? So that gives us u squared plus 4u minus 5 is 0. Factor it. We're going to go u plus 5 and u minus 1. So u is negative 5 and u is 1. Okay. But now again, we don't want u, we want x. So we get x squared is negative 5. And we get x squared is 1. Now what? Square both sides? So what do I get? So over here on the right, I get x is 1. Or sorry, I'm square rooting both sides, my fault. So x is not just 1, it is, yeah, square root 1, it's plus or minus 1, right? Because negative 1 squared is 1. Okay, what about over here? What if I square root both sides? Yeah, we're in trouble, correct? Yep. That doesn't work. That's an extraneous solution. So our answers are plus or minus 1.